Hi, this is Jeff Evans, and I'm explaining how I did the Loopop track for the competition. Now, I started with the ambient section first, and I used two computers for this actually. This is my iMac, and the only reason I'm using the iMac is that to be able to apply this plugin over here, which is called Expanse 3D, I'll sort of get to Expanse in a minute. But what I did was I set up 4 synthesizers here, and with each one of these, for example, Hydrasynth, Loopop gave us 3 sounds, and I've created a single instance of Contact here, but 3 actual instruments. I've got each sound going to its own synthesizer here, which is really great. Now, I've also created stereo outputs for each of these, which you can do in Contact. So each of these synths is feeding the Studio One mixer on its own stereo output, which is really cool. So I've done this for everything. With Nymphes, there's 6 sounds here, and these are all multi-timbral operations. All these tracks are on their own channel. And same thing, I've got 6 stereo outputs feeding Studio One there. So that's 9 sounds so far. Udo's got 3 sounds in here. Same deal. I've just got 1 instance of Contact, 3 instruments there, all with their own stereo outputs. So that's a total of 12 synths there. And Waldorf has got 6 instruments, of course. And there it is there. There are the 6 sounds there, and they're all feeding Studio One. So there's a total of 18 synthesizers. Now, the beauty of this, of course, is that I can simply, I have put these tracks into their own folders just for ease of, being able to see them. I could open them all up like this, of course. But the beauty of this is I've just got the ability to be able to jump onto any track, essentially, and simply record anything. And there's all the instruments there, essentially. I can probably get rid of the mixer as well. You'll see them all there. So whatever track I just simply jump onto here and engage, I can monitor and record. So that's pretty cool. So I'll just close them up again briefly, and I do need to bring the mixer back in order to explain this. Okay, so the first thing I did was the very deep part of the ambient. I actually sort of like a very deep sound with my ambient pieces. I'll just play it now. And I like to add a chord voicing on top with the complex, with those particular synths doing that. This is just the deep part. So this is just Hydra 3, as you can see over here. And if we open up the editor in Hydra 3, you'll see I've got a low-pass filter on here. This is what it sounds like normally. So that's the sound, except with a 4-pole ladder filter on there, and I've got this working pretty deep. So as you can hear, that's all I want. Now, just one thing on this bass sound too is it's actually quite stereophonic, and I'll just turn off Mongoose for a minute, and you'll hear that there's a fair bit going on. I probably could have left this sound actually in stereo now, to come to think of it. It probably would have sounded better, but I'm using Mongoose here to simply bring everything in below this frequency into the center, so it's a centering plugin. It just keeps the bass nice and tight, as you can see on the meter here. And I've got a compressor before that, which is working reasonably hard, but it's just leveling everything out. Followed by an EQ, just sort of dipping out a little bit around here. The MIDI part for this, I've altered the attack and release envelope, so they're very long, because this sound doesn't loop. If you hold it down indefinitely, it actually stops playing. So I probably could have gone in and looped that pretty well too, but all I did was just make this long attack, slow release. And even though I'm playing these notes on and off here, they're all just joining up and flowing into one sound. There is a high octave here, which you probably don't notice that much, considering the filter's been closed down pretty sort of heavily. So, but to cut a long story short, I'm just making a deep sound which lasts the whole distance of this particular thing. So that's it for that. Now, when I recorded the MIDI part for these 4 synthesizers, the parts are all the same. They're just layered. I've just created a 4-part layer. So all I did was engage all of these tracks into record here, and I simply played the same thing into each part. So there's the Hydrasynth part there, and likewise there's the Nymph part there. Udo 1 is exactly the same here, and Waldorf as well. It's exactly the same part. So I probably could have played 4 separate parts, to be honest, but it's just a massive layer, nothing more. So I just did a live performance. The first take that I actually did is the one that you hear, and it's just all over the D minor chord, and I simply just recorded the 4 tracks all the same, so they've all got the same MIDI data on them. With the other synths, there's 4 synthesizers doing the rest of it, and we'll start with the first one, which is Hydra 1 over here. Now that sound is actually quite stereophonic. It's also got long, slow attack, slow release. I've modified the sound in Contact accordingly. We'll just come back out of that now. And the next one is here from Nymph 6, basically. And we'll just listen to this. Now, without the groove delay, I think it's monophonic from memory. So I think it's fairly monophonic. So I've popped a Studio One groove delay on this. And you can see here that I've got all of these taps, but I've panned these two left and right. The red and green taps are panned. So the others are also fairly sort of central, but it just adds a little bit of stereophonic pizzazz, and also it's got the echo on it, it's a fairly slow delay as well. The third sound is coming from Udo, and it's Udo 1 here, and we'll just switch this in. It's just panned left here. It's sort of got a brassy, deep, paddy sort of sound. And last but not least is a Waldorf Sound, which is coming from Waldorf 5, which is here, basically. So we'll start it again, coming up now. That's pretty stereo already too. Now, if we I'll just bring all the synths straight back in, and I'll just keep the bass out though still, which is actually Hydra 3, but here are the 4 synths playing together without the Expanse plug-in. It's a pretty nice sound. But when I add Expanse, this is what Expanse increases the width and the depth and the height of the sound. It's quite an expensive plug-in, but I actually really like it, and it just pushes everything out a little bit wider, as you'll hear. I'll just switch it on now. So now if I bring in the low end thing again, which is Hydra 3, we've got this, and I can regulate how much of that bass I add from this slider here. But that's not what I did. I created two buses here. One, the drone, the bass, the deep bass drone just goes to here. There's no insert effects on there. So I just exported that as a stereo file from the whole length of this loop here. And all the other four synths with the Expanse 3D plugin, I simply exported that as a stereo file as well. So there's only two stereo exports from here. And then I dragged those into my Windows 7 machine, which was also running Studio One, and continued on from there. So we'll just switch over to that computer now. Here we go. So I'm in the Windows 7 machine now. And from the previous computer, I've dragged in these two things here, which will just solo again. This is the bass sort of thing from the ambient there. And I've also brought in the... So that's the rest of it. Now there is one thing worth mentioning here. This particular ambient has got an effect on it, and I'll just show you that. It's over here, and it's a Valhalla Delay. And there it is. Now it's very unusual because it's actually a delay, it's not a reverb, as you can hear. And Valhalla sent out some really nice presets recently from their newsletter collection. They were free for Valhalla Delay users, and it's under the synth reverbs, and it's called Lush Reverb. As you can hear, it's pretty big. Now that's hugely long. This feedback parameter actually determines how long it hangs on for. And I probably brightened it a bit there as well. Made it a little, and probably took a little bit of low end out of it. So there's the effect there. I think it's probably a little bit more feedback. So that's probably more like it. And if we bring back the bass drone, you'll hear that it's in quite a big space. Now, I've added a few other little things in here too. First of all, this over here, which is just a sort of a percussive thing. Oh, sorry, I'll just get this out of... here we go, here. There's that. This sound here is... These are all Loopop sounds. And there's another Loopop sound here. This sound here. And here. Now I should point out I do have some Heimbach Nugra going on here. And this effect is also, it's not, it wasn't very stereo, so I had to do a bit of work on that as well to make that wider. I'm just trying to find it now. Here it is. So I'm using this plugin quite a bit, by the way. This is the Empty Room Systems Dimension D, which is terrific. Now I haven't got Expanse 3D on this computer at all because it doesn't run under Windows 7. So I'm running it with I'm using this. So this is a cool plugin. So if you listen to Heimbach, for example, without it, oh, it's actually I think it is, oh sorry, I've switched off the EQ there. So we'll just go back, into Heimbach's effect here. And as you can hear, it's mono. And that's what Dimension D does to it, see? There is a fair bit of EQ on the Waldorf Sound as well. I'll just bring that up and show you. There it is there. Without it, it's a bit... I'm pulling out a bit of energy here and pushing up the top end, which is nice. But as you can hear, it really does add something nice to this. And Dimension D really widens things out. And I'm also using a little bit of this effect as well. And that's here. And all I've got on here is the new Cherry Audio Space Echo. Nothing fancy here. I'm just panning this sound to the right a bit. And I've got the echo coming back here. I'm not sure where that's being returned. Oh no, it's in series with it. So there it is. It's quite a nice effect, by the way. It's a very stereo track, that, which is great, but I'm just panning it to one side to just add a little bit of interest to this ambient. I'll just put the loop on so it doesn't stop. There we go. I used a tuner. That wasn't very well tuned, that thing. So I did my best to get it all around the key of D minor. So the next thing that happens is the sequence, which is coming from Hydra 2. Interesting. Now this sound is just Hydra 2, but I've done a fair bit here. I've really got into this and modified the envelope, as you can hear. It's got quite a slow attack, and I've changed the decay and sustain and release sounds. So, and that sound ended up out of time as a result, so I had to advance the track a fair bit. Actually, we'll just have a look at and see. I've had to pull the track back by 24 milliseconds in order to keep it in time with the metronome. See? Now, something else that's interesting about this track is, I'll just put the loop there as well. I've got an effect on it as well. And I'm using this. This is quite a bit here. First of all, I'm EQing the sound, and that's very important. That really creates a lot of the character. Notice there's sort of some bottom end drone going on in there. That's why I've put a fairly steep high pass on here to sort of get rid of that. And I'm pushing this part of the spectrum because I really like the sound of it there. Now I've got a Valhalla Room on here, which is nothing more than reverb. Then I'm following it with this, which is the Brow Motion Stereo Panner. There's I've actually turned off. I could have both panners going if I wanted, but I felt that the volume changed too much with the orange panner on, so I just kept the green panner going here. I don't think I've synchronized the panner to the session tempo either. It's running free. And then at the end of it, I think I've just got a compressor, which is just keeping everything under control. Now, I'll just talk about the bass sound. The bass sound is really interesting. It's coming from here. It's coming from sample 1. This is the bass sound here. Where I got this from was the Perkins drum machine. There's some, as well as some terrific percussion samples that Loopop gave us, there is a bass sound in there. There's 2 bass sounds in there. There's one that's got a fair bit of attack on it, and I think he gave us 3 notes, and I tried that one, but I felt it was all a bit too snappy for my liking. But there's another bass sound in there, which is, he's just given us 1 note only, and I think this is it here, actually. I think that's the root note there. And I've transposed, as you can see, I've transposed the note over a much wider range. Also, the note dies pretty quickly, and I've looped part of the sound. The sound does start here, but the loop starts in. So, and I've also got the loop in the release part, so that I've actually got a bit of an envelope there. So the bass is actually, the bass sound, even when you take your finger off the key, the bass sound has actually got some, so it's just 1 note that I've used. It does sound a little bit strange when the loop is present. If you listen, you can sort of hear the loop. But the trick is with this, I think with everything going, you just don't notice it. It just sounds like a fat analog synthesizer. Now the riser, there's a riser down here, which basically is just, it's a sound. That's a Heimbach sound too, I think, and I think I tuned that down some, I think it was not in agreement with, oh yeah, look at that, the riser, actually, I've transposed at 11 semitones, so it's a whole octave and 3 semitones up from where it was. And I've completed the riser with 2 hits after, I think. So here. So that just adds a little bit of drama to the whole thing. Okay, the next thing that I sort of got stuck into was the impact drum groove. And although Loopop gave us all the one-shot sounds in the form of contact instruments, and I originally had them all set up that way, as a matter of fact, but in the end, I decided to drop them all into an instance of Impact. Studio One has a drum machine called Impact, and I've created several banks here. They're all in here. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I did this. I just wanted to be able to change some of the pictures to suit things. As you'll see, these pictures, I've created slightly different envelopes. I've added some filters in. Impact just makes all this very easy and swift. And I certainly didn't use all 64 sounds or whatever they are there, but the beauty of Impact was I had the ability to just fine tune all these things. And I think I even put a high pass filter on some of these too as well. I'm not sure. There's one sound I know that has definitely got a pretty serious high pass on it. Now, the way I created this groove is actually quite interesting, and I'm just going to pull these down here, and I'm going to open this up. What I did was one day I was in Melbourne staying down there in a hotel, and I was just waiting for my wife to come and join me after work, and I had a couple of hours in the hotel room, and what I did was I sort of came up with this idea for a groove, and this is it basically. So I just have to unmute these events now in order to hear it, and we'll just have a listen to it here. So this is just me vocalizing a rhythm into my phone, and it turns out I did it pretty nicely to 83 beats per minute down here, and that determined, actually, believe it or not, that determined the entire tempo of the piece. I decided to keep it at 83. So all I had to do was replicate that into impact. I don't think I've looped that very well, actually. I think that's the reason. Oh yeah, look, it's a 16th note. But now, I hate backbeats. Everybody in the world goes boom, chick, boom, boom, chick for every single thing they do. It's a disgracefully overused groove, and I'm totally in agreement with Stuart Copeland from The Sting, who made a big deal of the fact that the backbeat, nearly everybody uses a backbeat, and for me that just makes the music boring straight away. It doesn't matter how good your music is, if you're putting it to boom, let's face it, boring as crap. This is a far more interesting groove. 2 2 3 4 3 2 4 4 bars. Most people are doing a backbeat over 1 bar. I'm doing an incredibly interesting groove over 4. So once we mute this now, of course, and bring everything in, we've got it all. Now this first one here isn't the same as this. I've dropped a few things out just while things are working their way up. Not everything is in that particular event, but everything comes in 3 4 now. So there we go. Now the melody, I've got 3 instruments playing the melody over here: Hydra 3, Nymph 4 and Waldorf 3. And we'll just play that now. Hydra 3, Nymph 4, Waldorf 3. There's no effects on the much here, so that's all pretty good. And we'll just keep going here, and now I'll just open the chord track just to explain the musical side of it, just briefly. The ambient section is in D minor, and so is this 4 bars leading up. But I'm treating this D minor chord as the 3 chord of B flat major, and this is the 6 chord and the 1 chord. I do a quick key change here into the key of C and steal the chords of C major and A minor, and then I go back into B flat for this section. I use the melody notes to step upwards into C here, back into B flat now. This is the bridge, so I'm stepping from doing key change from B flat into E flat here now, and staying same melody note, key change. This is the 2 chord of E flat, which I've modified to sus4, and also I'm using the 4 chord of E flat, which is normally A flat, but I've changed that to a sus4 chord as well. I am briefly just whipping back into A flat major there, and then I'm stepping down into B flat. So I'm using the 5 chord here, 4 chord, 4 chord, 5. So while I'm on B flat, then I can slip back into the key of B flat. I can continue on. What I am doing here though is bringing in a Hydra 1 sound just in this bridge. Which is here, and I think without dimension D as well. It's already a little bit stereo, but I'm definitely taking it a bit further out with this and adding some EQ in as well. So that just sort of puts a pad under everything basically, which is sort of cool. Now what I'm doing here is I'm using the Udo sound, Udo 1, to continue the melody on here. And I'm pretty sure there's no stereo in that either. So I'm EQing it and using a groove delay again, which is sort of giving it that left-right thing, and putting in a Valhalla reverb, vintage reverb on there, which just makes it all sound nice, you know. So yeah, just go back there and we'll come out. So now I'm back into B flat basically to just sort of complete this. I think I'm bringing the I'm bringing in another sound, obviously. I think it's Hydra 3 in here. Actually, it's hard to hear what's going on. There's definitely a choral sort of thing going on. There it is. Waldorf 5. I do get confused with all of these sometimes. Now there it is there. I don't think it's so that's it raw. There's nothing stereophonic. I'm using that EQ to sort of liven things up a little bit. And I'm bringing in this again to sort of widen it all out. And I've got a Valhalla Delay on it as well. So that just sort of gives it all a nice thing, doesn't it? And then the melody just finishes here Now I'm adding in a Nymph 6 sound here, which is just this last note now. That just sort of gives it a bit of drama. There's a few things going on here as well. I think you'll find it's probably not too stereo as well. So we need to sorry, this is the sound that we're after, Nymph 6. And there it is, and with all the effects on, it's all a bit more dramatic. And that just adds a bit of drama to just the last part of the melody, which just sort of peaks it out a bit. Now what I've done is drag the ambient over. I haven't used as much. I've just used this sound here. And I brought the Heinbach sounds back in here. I am doing a fade on the sequence though, while all this is going on, taking the sequence out. I don't think I did a fade on the bass sound. I think I just let it do its thing and stop naturally. I did keep the bass sound going here. And then I faded out this impact here though. You can hear it fading out. I just did that on the drum bus. And then if we bring all of that back in again, you'll hear that it's all from about here. So impact's gone now, so is the sequence, so is the bass sound, and I'm just allowing the last part of the ambient to take it out. Mastering wise, I've just got a few things going on here. I've got 3 plugins here. I've got this EQ, which I've just bought recently. This is an AMEC EQ, which just sounds fantastic. That's all I can say about that. Got a little bit of boost here, pushing some upper mids, dropping out some bass. Actually, I've got a little bit more bottom end on the actual master, but for the purposes of YouTube and this explanation video, I've just pulled it back so it's not quite so big. I'm using the Shadow Hills compressor here as well, just to give it a little bit of, it's not working very hard. Probably about 2 dB of gain reduction at the most. And I'm just capping the whole thing off with my favourite limiter, PSP Xenon. I'm certainly not doing much there. I'm only adding 3 dB to the whole track, just to pull the RMS level up a little bit. So there it is. So there's the video explaining how it's all done. I hope you found all that interesting. Studio One lets you, if you do a Control-A-Shift-S command, you get the whole thing in your entire screen. It's certainly been a really amazing experience, as I'm sure a lot of you agree. The good thing about it is having a limited number of samples and sounds and drum sounds, and it just forces you to be highly creative with all of those things. And I certainly took advantage of all of the power that Contact has got to offer in terms of amplitude envelopes and the filters, and also filter envelopes as well, you know. I certainly took advantage of everything. But anyway, that's about it, and thanks for watching.